One day in 2022, a certain story started circulating around the internet. A picture taken at an art competition held at the Colorado State Fair was making waves in Twitter's art communities, and for good reason. The piece sporting the first place prize was completely AI generated, an experiment run by a man who wished to see how far he could push Midjourney's image generation algorithm. This was at a time when AI generated videos looked like this, and you could still count the number of fingers on an AI drawing to tell if it was AI or not. And even then, this image was able to beat out all of the human-created artwork that it competed against. Flash forward to today, and the issue has only gotten worse. Now, AI video makes up 90% of my Instagram feed, with videos that sometimes, if it weren't for the complete ridiculousness of the situation, would go unnoticed very easily. And as for the art side of things, it's not much better. Now I scroll my Twitter feed never knowing for 100% certain that what I'm looking at is in fact made by a human being. This constant barrage of AI content of every kind can be really discouraging. I personally know many people who work hard to hone their skills every day, and to see AI harvest their hard work just to spit out a soulless imitation is really heartbreaking. It feeds on information provided by humans, processing it and turning that knowledge into a product. This aggregation of knowledge allows AI to create a product almost instantaneously, but there's a side of art that goes beyond the final product, an aspect of creation unique to human art of any medium. But to understand this, we must look at art as an action rather than a product. And to understand art as an action, we must break it up into its individual parts. The following are pieces spanning many different mediums that I feel make art the action so uniquely human. And by studying these pieces, I hope to make it clear that there is a side of art that AI will never be able to replicate. Steven Universe's story starts in 1987, before the first episode even aired. Rebecca Sugar was born in Maryland, a state that borders the East Coast, giving access to the cute beach towns of the surrounding states. She grew up with her brother Steven, with whom she shared an interest in art, music, video games, TV, and theater. Through these experiences alone, before Steven Universe was even a thought in her mind, she had already begun the process of art as an action. She would begin working on Adventure Time shortly after graduating, honing her skills as she wrote some of the show's most memorable songs and episodes at large. All the while, she began workshopping ideas, looking back to her old projects from college and reminiscing on the experiences that got her to where she was now. And when she was offered to pitch a show to Cartoon Network, it was then that all of that build-up, all of her experiences from her earliest years to right then and there, all culminated into something amazing. Many say that Steven Universe isn't perfect, that it's a flawed show that doesn't know what it's trying to say half the time. And while I don't fully disagree, if you want to see my full opinions on the show, there's a 9-hour video you could go watch. But my point in including Steven Universe here goes far beyond the actual quality of the show itself. Whether you're in my boat and think it's a good show, or personally find it to be poorly written and confused, the pure artistry that went into the creation of the piece is what makes it art. It's a show that is completely and genuinely Rebecca Sugar, a show that could only be made by her because of her unique experiences and skills. The made-up state of Delmarva was made to mirror the real-life origins of Sugar's life growing up in Maryland. The show's imbued with art and music and video games and TV and theater because that's what fueled Sugar throughout her life. The show even references her own body of work, going as far as to include characters from previous projects of hers. And the icing on the cake comes from the show's title. The show was named Steven Universe after her brother because of what her brother meant to her. In this way, a show becomes more than its objective value. Steven Universe is a project given everything Sugar had to give. It's a picture of her existence as a whole in art form. And in that way, it's not the product's quality that makes this art so masterful, but rather the story and insight into one's life that it gives. This is an outstanding example of how art preserves a person. Art like this takes that idea to the next level. You can imbue a piece of art with every single ounce of your soul, and so long as that art is observed by someone, your existence is cemented in history. An AI product completely lacks soul in this regard. When pieces can be prompted into existence by anyone at any time in the blink of an eye, it doesn't get to tell a story. There were no years of honing skills, no years of experience that the AI can consciously or subconsciously pull from, because even if the person prompting the AI does have a story, it's impossible to feed that full context into a prompt, because so much of the story is in the unintentional and circumstantial. Steven Universe is an aggregation of everything that Rebecca Sugar cared about and experienced throughout her life. While I've listed many of the key things she's publicly cited as inspiration, this also includes every other tiny moment that she's ever experienced. These aspects of her existence seep into every fiber of the show, making it a piece that could only be made by someone who lived her exact life to a T. And I think that's the first core tenet that makes art as an action so important. The things that are not verbose, the things that an artist include in their art without even noticing, the unique skill sets and experiences that lead to a piece of art. And that's what makes it an aspect of art that I truly believe AI will never be able to copy. An AI is incapable of being genuine in this way that is so inherently human. Shingo Tamagawa had hit a breaking point. This man, who had been obsessed with art and animation all his life, found himself disillusioned with the medium as he began to work in the field of animation. No matter what project he was assigned to, he felt a sinking feeling forming in his soul. No matter how hard you work, animation is something consumable. Tamagawa would say these exact words in an interview by Archipel. He felt as though his work simply existed to pump out a product, and despite all the passion that had fueled him up to that point, he quit drawing. He needed to start from zero, to rebuild his love for art for a fear that he may come to hate the medium altogether. In 2015, he would stop drawing altogether, quitting his job and putting his work on hold for a year and a half. He spent this time in a sort of meditation, spending his days reading and walking around his neighborhood, existing in the moment and soaking up all of the feelings that had been building up in him for so many years. Slowly, through this meditation, inspiration would find him again, and it would become clear what he needed to do. He was going to make his own project, something that was entirely his. He wasn't told what to do or given any deadline. He simply told himself that he wanted to create something. Quote, "It was as if I wanted to leave a trace of the shape of my soul throughout that time I spent doing nothing, messing around." He chose animation as the vessel for this message, working to create an art piece that was unquestionably his, a 3-minute long short that he would animate frame by frame, physically on paper. Independence was key to the project, Tamagawa insisting that despite the Herculean task it would prove to be, he wanted to do it all himself. He wanted the world of his short to be a reflection of his own emotions, a look into the mindset and the feelings that birthed the concept of the short to begin with. This resulted in Puparia, a piece that perfectly encapsulated the vision of a single creator. While the process of doing every step of animation from initial sketch to final edit was impossibly daunting, this 3-year project resulted in something only possible from a solo project. Tamagawa described how he always valued knowing what a director wanted out of a project, allowing him to more easily grasp a person's vision. And here, with Tamagawa Tamagawa playing all roles in production from lead artist to director, he knew exactly what the final vision looked like, and this would find its way into every step of the process, foregoing the necessity for communication and interpretation that comes with working in a team, and instead allowing for a single man to deliver his vision down to the finest of details. This all contributes to the raw emotion of the final piece, a piece that is intimate and quiet while invoking all kinds of emotions from the viewer. The art itself tells a story as well. The level of detail present in every background and side character is a sign of the struggle that resulted in this piece. The insane amount of time and effort and commitment and dedication that went into the piece is present in every stroke of the brush. They tell this piece's true story, the story of a single man who set out to do the impossible. Each stroke a decision, a step in the journey that took this man to this final piece. But at the same time, the piece itself is malleable, a collection of emotions that aim simply to spur certain feelings in the viewer. This shows another aspect of art that AI could never replicate. The genuine, tangible feelings imbued into this piece allows for others to connect to it with their own feelings. Being as guided as emotion as it is, the piece does not insist on a meaning, but rather gives the viewer the feelings and emotions that allow for their own conclusions to be drawn. This is an example of an unwillingness to compromise, of an artist having a vision so strong it didn't matter how impossible that task was. Tamagawa says himself that even if the short went completely unnoticed, he would have still been glad to have made it. The point of the project wasn't to produce a product, but rather to work through the feelings of burnout and disillusion that had plagued Tamagawa for years. And this understanding of art as an action or a process results in a piece that truly did capture a snapshot of his soul. If Puparia is an example of one man's dedication to his craft and his vision, the following is one of the heights that art can reach through the efforts of a group, and how real art can continue to live on far after the project is complete. Over the last few years, you may have seen these floating around on the internet. These are reanimated projects that take an existing piece of media, with fans then teaming up to animate over it through the collaboration of sometimes hundreds of artists. These give a really unique opportunity to fans in specific fandoms. It's an opportunity to take their passion for a franchise and turn that passion into something of their own. Every artist participating is assigned a piece of the project, usually 5 to 10 seconds of animation, and what results is a version of the work that is reimagined and recontextualized by the fans, each taking inspiration and motivation from a love for the original work and dumping that energy right back into the source material. And what results is an absolute love letter to the original work, a piece that encapsulates all the emotions that the original work inspired in its most adoring fans, a piece that displays the impact that the original had on so many. There are countless examples of this all over the internet, and they all serve as an incredible look into how a piece of art can affect and inspire so many, and how those people can go on to make great things themselves. I believe that Epic the Musical represents this idea brought to its natural conclusion. Epic the Musical would begin production in 2019 as a man by the name of George Rivera Herranz began crafting a concept album for his senior thesis. The plan was simple: to make a full musical album roughly following the plot points of Homer's Odyssey, with a few twists to keep the story fresh. But actually achieving this goal would not be so simple, and as such, the development of the project would take years, with Herranz not only writing a total of 40 tracks by the end of production, but also providing vocals as the main character. And production wasn't smooth sailing by any means. Herranz not only had to tackle an immense amount of work solo, but also found himself running into legal troubles early on into the project. His distribution company would claim ownership over his work, essentially holding the project project hostage. Hurons would, however, re-record these groups of songs from scratch, acting as a loophole to regain ownership. While this story of hardship in and of itself contains many of the aspects of art as an action that I referenced in Tamagawa's work, I want to focus on the response that Epic garnered from the internet. Epic's success would be rapid, with Hurons posting constant updates to his TikTok account, documenting his work on the project from the very first songs all the way to the final tracks of the album. And this look into a small solo creator's journey to create something of such an immense scale, paired with the clear quality of the final work, would greatly inspire fans across the internet. Soon, this project that initially began as purely a musical work began to shift mediums. What was once just audio was paired with visuals, animations made by fans interpreting their favorite scenes and moments. And these animations came in droves, with hundreds of videos popping up all over the internet. Slowly, with so many artists animating each of these scenes, it became possible to consume Epic as a full-on animated movie, with one of the fandom's most popular videos being a full cut of Epic in animated form. This video takes animations and animatics from fans all over the internet and splices it into a fully coherent movie that uses the movie by Hurons as the script to this visual work. And what's more is that it's far from a definitive list on the best animations. Each song has countless animations and animatics by different artists, meaning that if you've seen this cut before and wanted to experience the show again, you could simply seek out any of these hundreds of alternative animations that the fans had created for each song. In this way, Epic stands out as one of the best examples of the reanimated phenomenon, a case where a piece became so beloved, so admired for the dedication and hard work that went into it, that it inspired countless artists to create something of their own, to contribute to this piece that sparked creativity in them. And the result is a collaborative piece fueled solely by passion and inspiration, a project that started with one man's ambitious journey and ended with a full community of people repaying the passion that the piece granted to them, by in turn creating art of their own. It's a great example of how art and the stories that surround it can be the genesis for future art. Even Huron's work itself was inspired by Homer's Odyssey, revealing a very interesting pattern. Art is often created out of an appreciation for a work, and in this case, we see how the inspiration that Hurons would draw from Homer's Odyssey would transform into inspiration that fans of Epic would draw from Hurons' own art. In this way, art is an action that can live on for generations, passing along the inspiration to continue making art from one artist to another. In this way, the very creation of art itself ensures that art will continue to be made, that one day someone may draw inspiration from you like you have from others, and that chain of inspiration works to tell the story of all artists involved. Ultimately, the story of Epic and its rise to popularity shows us that art, the action, is never truly done. So long as someone, even just one person, is inspired by your work, then that work lives on. And in this way, all art is collaborative. Unlike AI that simply steals from the art it's trained on, humans are able to gain a deep appreciation for a piece of art. And sometimes it isn't even the product itself that inspires, but the stories and struggles that went into a piece's creation. And I think that Epic is a prime example of these ideas. With these examples, I feel it becomes very obvious what makes human art so unique. Art is stubborn, refusing to compromise on things important to you, and pushing a piece that is as close to your vision as possible. Art is passion, having a love and obsession with your project that refuses to let it die. Art is experience, an expression of who you are, where you came from, and what shaped you as a person. In this way, art is anything but a product. It's a story that can only be told by a human who experiences, feels, and struggles in the attempt to make something great. With all that being said, I must admit something. In a way, I've been leading you on this whole video. While I do believe that these are all facets of art that AI could never replicate, this doesn't solve the underlying issue. To go back to the start of the video, despite everything I've said, AI art will keep winning contests. In the eyes of a greedy company, AI makes infinitely more sense. It's quick, it's easy, and it's cheap. AI is already stealing jobs from artists left, right, and center, and it's only going to keep ramping up. But in the face of such horrible odds, this video is meant to keep you proud, to remind you that you should be proud of your art and the time and effort and skills and experiences that go into that. While it looks and frankly is grim out there, people who really care will always value you. AI art will never satisfy me like real art will, and I'm not the only one who feels this way, proven by the fact that all of these art pieces I've discussed today exist in the first place. People like this exhibit all of the traits that make real art so important, and single-handedly keep this idea of art as an action alive. AI does not have an identity or a past, and as such, it can't make projects as personal and specific to a certain way of life, a certain set of experiences as Steven Universe is. The development of an AI work has no story. Writing a prompt is nothing to the genuine hardship that led to the creation of Puparia, the story of a man who fell in love with art, lost that love, and rediscovered it by making a project that was completely genuine to himself, refusing to compromise at any step of the way. AI art does not captivate an audience like a multi-year project by one man, giving inspiration to hundreds and spurring on the creation of further pieces of art. All of these aspects combine to represent art as an action, something that generative AI built only to imitate and provide results will never be able to touch.